Every year there are freshmen who burst onto the scene and become stars in the sport. Last year we had Levi Haynes, who started the season in red shirt, got his red shirt pulled, and then made the national finals. We also had Caleb Henson, who beat Sammy Sasso early in the year and then would later place 5th at the national tournament. And then you can't forget Shane Van Ness, who had multiple crazy comebacks at the national tournament and then would place 3rd on the podium. And then we had Jesse Mendez, who made a statement in his first match versus an All-American. He wrestled Lucas Berg in his very first college tournament and came out with the victory. Jesse ended up placing 6th, and he just has a killer name. That is an amazing name. Everyone with that name is just awesome.
Don't be weird.
And that's one of the best parts of the start of every wrestling season, is watching these freshmen, these newcomers, get into these college weights and really start to shake things up. So I've got 6 freshmen for you that you really need to keep an eye on that could really make some noise going into the 2024 college season. And we're going to start out in Buckeye Nation, Ohio State. Number 6, I have Nick Feldman. And Nick, he was the number 1 ranked guy in the 2022 recruiting class. And we didn't get to see him much last year, unfortunately, due to a pretty serious neck injury. But it sounds like he's made a full recovery. And while it would have been nice to see him in that Ohio State lineup and in the Ohio State wrestling room, developing and getting better, Nick has been entering college tournaments and beating Division I national qualifiers since he was a senior in high school. Now, I will admit, heavyweight is pretty deep, but I think there is a real possibility that Nick Feldman could find his way on the podium come March. And since I'm a man of the people, I'm going to give you a freebie. I'm going to give you an extra guy to keep an eye out coming up this season. We're going to stick with the Ohio State Buckeyes, Nick Bouzakis. Nick won every single one of his 133-pound matches that he wrestled in last year. His best win coming over Kyle Biscaglia of Northern Iowa. And Kyle ended up losing in the blood round at the national tournament, so he was 1 match away from being an All-American. So that's a high quality win that Nick already has on his resume. And not to mention, Nick is coming off a Junior World Championships where he won a bronze medal. Nick does have his work cut out for him at 133 pounds. There are 7 previous All-Americans that are returning at this weight class, but Intermat has Nick ranked starting the season at number 9, so he's going to be right there in the mix all year long. And we're going to have our early season matchup in early November of Virginia Tech versus Ohio State, where we should see Nick Bouzakis wrestle Sam Latona. That is going to be a big match to watch to tell how Nick is going to be able to compete against these high-level 133-pounders this year. All right, so listen, I gave you an extra guy. If that is not worth a subscription, I don't know what is. But let's go ahead and dive into number 5. Dylan Fishback. But don't let his name fool you. He's certainly no fish, and you won't be finding him on his back on any wrestling mats.
You are not funny.
He wrestles for NC State, and while he has some not so great losses at 184 pounds last year, he had an excellent offseason, an excellent freestyle season. He placed 5th at the US Open, where he beat guys like Owen Webster, and then he would win the U23 World Team Trials, beating Donnell Washington of Indiana 2 out of 3 matches. 184 pounds has lost a lot from last year, from seniors graduating, with Aaron Brooks bumping to 197, Trent Hidley bumping to 197. So there's going to be a lot of room at 184 pounds for some newcomers, some fresh blood to really shake up this weight class. At number 4, we have Dayton Pitzer of Pittsburgh. He was this close from getting his red shirt pulled last year after he had an outstanding tournament at the Midlands, beating All-American Trent Hilger and national finalist Colton Schultz. He also had other quality wins over guys like Hunter Katka from Virginia Tech. Ultimately, Keith Gavin decided to keep him in red shirt. Dayton looked a little small for a heavyweight. At least he looked small in my opinion. If he can add some quality size and be a full-size heavyweight, watch out. Coming in at number 3, we have Ben Keeter for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He is a 2-sport athlete playing football and wrestling. Now, he was supposed to redshirt this year, but it sounds like, based off Tony Cassiope potentially not being able to compete this year, And based off a quote from the Iowa linebackers coach, it sounds like Ben Keeter is going to be the heavyweight for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. Ben Keeter is a junior world champion, so he has all the potential in the world. The question's really going to be is how much size can he put on to be a full-size heavyweight, and how much time can he spend in the wrestling room. If he can put on good size and he can spend a lot of time in the wrestling room getting better and adjusting to college wrestling, Nick Feldman is not going to be the only heavyweight that I think we could see on the podium come March. All right, coming in at number 2, we have Cody Chittum for Iowa State. He was winning college wrestling matches over D1 starters when he was a senior in high school. And last year, while he was wrestling out of the Iowa Wrestling Club, he was winning high senior level freestyle matches and winning senior level medals at international tournaments. In the summer, he transferred to Iowa State, and while I think he technically might have a red shirt available, all signs point to him being the 157-pound starter for the Iowa State Cyclones. And before we get into number 1, listen up, wrestling fans. Stop dressing like this and start dressing like this. Check out my merch store below. Get yourself a high quality wrestling t-shirt and rep the sport that we love to watch. Coming in at number 1, Meyer Shapiro from Cornell. And he's number 1 because, in my opinion, of all these guys, of all the newcomers, of all the freshmen, he is the most likely to end up at the top of the podium and win a national title this year. You heard me right. This year. And if you don't believe me, let me convince you. First, he is the number 1 ranked wrestler in the 2023 recruiting class. And you might say, well, that's all great, but he needs time to adjust to college wrestling. He's a great high school wrestler, but college is different. He's going to need a year to develop. And what I would say to you is, he skipped his senior year of high school. He has been wrestling in the Cornell wrestling room for the past year, wrestling with Yanni Diakomihalis and that Cornell staff. So he is going to be fully prepared to compete in college wrestling matches this season. He's also fresh off a junior world championships. And junior world champions have a dang good track record of winning national titles in Division I college wrestling. Just to name a few, you have Keegan O'Toole, Makai Lewis, Rocky Elam, Mark Hall, Gable Steveson, Spencer Lee, Dayton Fix, David Carr, Mason Paris. 7 out of our 10 past junior world champions have gone on to win a Division I NCAA title at some point during their college career. And if you're still not convinced, Yanni Diakomihalis, a 4-time national champion, had this to say about Meyer Shapiro. Meyer is going to be in the mix for an NCAA title next year. Book it. Now, Yanni might be a little biased because he's his teammate, but Yanni is in there wrestling with Meyer Shapiro every single day. And let me remind you, Yanni's wrestled in the finals 4 times. He knows exactly what national finalists feel like and how good they need to be to win a national title. So there's not much of a better person to analyze where Meyer Shapiro is and his ability to win a national title. So in my opinion, the question isn't whether he'll end up on the podium in March. The question really is it going to be on top? If you like wrestling and if you like to laugh, check out this video. It's a little wrestling skit I did. You might laugh. You might think it's super corny. You might even think I have multiple personality disorder. Either way, watch it. Let me know what you think. Oh yeah, and don't forget, subscribe.